366. Behdad Jamshidi. Whoops. Behdad. Behdad, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, dude. So I don't typically have, and I know you've probably been guests on lots of other podcasts before. I don't typically have like formats. I don't have ideas, and I don't have topics of what I'm really going to talk about. And I like to be different than the like where every podcast is going to start out, and they're like, "All right, just tell us a little bit about yourself." And they're like, that's the most like broadcaster thing you could say. I think we'll eventually learn those things as we sit here and we talk. It says right there on your screen, it says the marketing connector. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But first, I want to welcome you. Hello.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Great. I hope you're feeling great today. I hope you're feeling good.
I
You have like a sincere nature to you, and I appreciate those vibes.
Thank you. I appreciate that I came across that way over Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, bro. I learned something funny about myself today.
Shoot.
Uh, Before Zoom calls, for some reason, I spray perfume on myself.
Okay.
It's like, who's smelling me through the? Uh, it's cologne. I mean, but who's smelling me through the thing? Well, I got to put deodorant. Well, I got to put deodorant on anyway because I'm sweaty. I'm a very
Yeah.
sweaty. Dude. I get sweaty waking up in the morning. Like that's
Yeah, I
the
mean,
way.
deodorant will help with that. So I'm glad you put deodorant and cologne on, just in case you run into your wife or your dog across the home. So that's good.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You never know what's going to happen in the hallway.
No, you have no idea.
So if you can, uh, don't don't think that I'm being the broadcaster saying this stuff, but can you give me a little bit of understanding of like how long you've been in this and how that's been treating you? I know that you, and I'll ask you more about that in a little bit. You attended a Tony Robbins event. If you wanted to dive into that a little bit more as we go further into it, but please like understand like how you got into this line of work and why.
Yeah. I started out as an engineer. I did a lot of engineering in life. And I used to work for a pretty big telecom company, and that's initially what I did. But I've been running my business right now, the marketing connector, for over 7 years. And I got into this line of work because I realized that there's a gap between like marketing agencies and businesses. Like they don't understand each other. So businesses don't understand marketing, and marketing agencies don't understand business. And so I thought I could be the connector between a lot of it. Growing up, I was always kind of a connector, and I always loved connecting with people. And so that's kind of how it all kind of came together. To this day, I've talked to over 1,077 different marketing agencies and experts. And the main thing that I do is I connect businesses to the right marketing partners. And that's kind of how I got into it.
Do you think by calling somebody an expert, do you think that do you think anybody ever talks about when they talk to you, did they include you? Oh, I was just talking to a marketing expert. Like, do you think like you're in those statistics for other people?
Yeah, I do think I'm that just expert around either like connecting people to marketing agencies and just overall knowing marketing, because when you've talked to over 1,077 people in like the marketing world, right? Like imagine talking to 15 to 20 different Amazon agencies. Imagine talking to 40 to 50 plus. I don't even know the actual like breakdown of numbers, but on like paid per click advertising. When you talk to that many people, you get insights and understanding for people that have been doing it for so long, and so you end up becoming an expert in a lot of different areas and knowing, oh, to do this specific channel, this is what you need to do. And so the answer is yes. And then around human connection and connecting people together, become an expert in that area as well, because I understand that topic quite deeply. And I think I'm just scratching the surface. Like there's so much more to do, but it's quite exciting.
It's so funny because like I don't ever think of myself as an expert on anything, but I for sure have like an expert's opinion on
Mhm.
so many things that like for sure like I don't have a huge audience or anything yet, but like I have 366 why can't I say 66 366 episodes. See, the episodes being tied there was what made me say 66.
Yeah. It's hard to say. It's a mouthful. I don't know what
But
that term is, but
I've been, so I've been doing this podcast for over 8 years now,
wow.
and so 2017 was when I started doing this pod. And so it's all a work of consistency. You know what I mean? Not just this podcast, but doing the wrestling podcasts. I did a show called Wrestle Rock that ran for like 9 years, and I do the Stew Cast and I do the Stew Pot. So like, and that's what this drum represents. This is why I take this drum with me. When I take this drum with me to the ring. I beat the drum before my matches, and I use it to intro every episode of the podcast because it stands for consistency as much as like. So I'm not a drumming expert, but I'm an expert on beating my drum.
Yeah, you're an expert on being consistent, and you got little anchors for it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny because if I was going to pick up an instrument, I actually pick up the drums, like the hand drums.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I got these little ones right here.
Oh, you got quite a few. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I it's sort of it's part of my personality, I guess. It's, it's a little creepy and kooky. I just watched Addams Family.
Is that still on? That's interesting. I didn't know that show.
No,
was
we watched the original, like the black and white 1960s version of the television show. We found it on Tubi or something.
the OG. Got it. That's cool. That's very cool. Cool. And like, what's your goal with your podcast? Like, as you've done 366 episodes, like,
I
what drives you?
I really so I explain it this way. When I first started doing the podcast, I was a part of a wrestling podcast, a pro wrestling podcast, where we would only have an hour of studio space every Friday. So we'd have to go in there and we'd only have to talk about this topic that was pro wrestling, and we had to we were sure we're going to cover this event, this happening, this thing, that thing, and then we're going to wrap it up. And at that time, I was listening to a lot of things that inspired me. So I was listening to a lot of Joe Rogan's podcast. I was listening to a lot of Pete Holmes's podcast. I was listening to a lot of Mark Maron's podcast. I was listening to a lot of vulnerability, people really being like authentic and talking and learning and like bringing value to the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard Pete Holmes tell this story where he pitched his podcast to his agent, and his agent was like, "Yeah, that's the same idea as what Mark Maron has. That's what WTF. And he's like, yeah, but it's me. There is no other me."
Yeah.
And then I was like, how come I don't have? I have all these other facets. Like I want something, and I like pitched the idea of this show to a different studio because I was like, oh, like there's one closer to home. I pitched it, and I was like, hey, I kind of want to have it be where we're talking about life lessons, and we're talking about like what has helped you grow, and like what stories you have that can help people be a more evolved version of themselves. And I was having these conversations with people like just off the record, and I was saying, man, that's a really evolved way of thinking. And that started popping into my head as like this is like an important like word. And I had a conversation with my mother, and she told me that she had like these CDs that she got burnt. They were on them were voicemails from her best friend who had passed and her mother. And she's like, you know how like sometimes when people die, you like forget what their voice sounds like? And I was like, yeah, I don't really want that.
Yeah.
I don't really want that for me. I want it to be where like you can go back and listen to who I like authentically am and have me really like learn and grow. You'll be evolving with me and watching me evolve. Like the person I was when I started the podcast, I was young and I was not not very familiar with letting myself be vulnerable because I like wasn't ready to expose who I truly was because somebody could use that against me, and I was guarded, and now it's like me continuing to do this is therapy in its own way for me. So it's like whether or not whether or not I have a huge audience, I will continue to do this because it's a lasting record on who my life is, like who I am in my life. Everything is a timestamp of like who I met my wife doing this.
Oh,
Like
cool.
I just one of our mutual friends was like, "Hey, my friend just did this Netflix show, and she sang on the show on Netflix called Sing On, and I think she'd be a great guest for your podcast." And I was like, "Sure." We had our first conversation right here on these mics, talking on here. I mean, I didn't live here yet. I still lived in a different part of Philly, and I we just after the call got off, we just stayed on the Zoom and we just talked about music and we laughed and we just smiled and it was like we were getting along so good. And I was like, "Where do you live?" And she was like, "I live in Ridley." And I looked it up. It's 41 minutes from where I live. And I was
Cool.
like, "Let's hang out." And I had no intentions of it being anything but just a podcast guest, but it turned into like, well, now I'm married. Well, I'm not married to her yet, but I'm getting married to her in the summertime.
That's amazing. I love it. That's a really cool story, man. So it sounds like it's something that allows you to keep like your legacy. It's almost like a diary of you as you evolve. And honestly, one of the best things is to find something that you really enjoy doing, and you don't actually care about what the results of it. You're just like, I just like doing this because I like doing it, and that's like the most
I would love the
amazing to do.
results because it if I was anybody but me, I'd want to know this podcast. I'd want to listen to this podcast. Like I look at this as if I was somebody listening to this would be something I'd want to listen to because I
Mhm.
listen to a lot of other things that are good, but like I listen to a lot of other things that are like, well, here's the format. Open it up and blah, blah. Like I don't have a fake voice on. I'm being exactly who I am, and I want that to inspire other people in this like social media influencer world who just want to like be whatever the trend is. I don't want that. I mean, I'll try to get on some of those trends just to gain an audience or whatever. But it's shallow. It's hollow. It's hollow. It's got no depth to it.
Okay. So how do you get to the depth in your podcast? So how do you dive into the meat, I guess?
Well, I mean, we're early, dude. We're right. We're still early on in the show.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious, like how your brain works. Like whenever you got a guest on, like how do you think, like, oh, this is the area I'm going to go in with this person, or like how does your
Well,
brain think about that?
I'll I'll usually start some of the things that I'll start with a lot of times, not all the time, because I don't keep to a structure, but I'll usually ask like, what was growing up like? Did you have both parents? Did you have siblings? How'd that go?
Mm.
And then I'll say like, was there a religious aspect to that? Was there a spiritual aspect to that? And especially if it's especially with somebody who's in the performance space, similarly to me,
Yeah,
I'll be like, "Where's your damage at? Why do you seek attention like me?"
yeah,
There's
yeah,
all entertainers, all like front of the stage people, all have some damage, and like why they are the way they have to fill this hole with attention.
yeah. Hmm.
So, what was your home life like?
Yeah,
Did
good
you have
segue.
both?
Yeah, I had both parents growing up, both immigrant parents.
Yeah.
Lived in Vancouver. My mom worked. Well, she
Did
worked
you
a
say
little bit,
you
but
lived in Vancouver?
Vancouver, Canada. Yeah,
Ah, cool,
yeah, yeah.
cool.
So I was born in Toronto. We moved when I was one to Vancouver, and that's where we were for most of the years. And then I moved to the Netherlands for about a year and a half with my wife, and then we ended up back in Vancouver again. So that's kind of where I am. And yeah, we grew up with both parents. I grew up in, I think it's called social housing. It's like, when immigrants come over, they take like 30% of your whatever you make for home so that you're not on the streets. And yeah, I had a pretty cool childhood growing up. I mean, everyone has traumas, but it's like I had a pretty cool childhood growing up. I grew up in like a townhouse area with a bunch of other kids, and so I got to play on bikes and play baseball and play soccer and like every sport, which I love, and I still continue to play many sports today.
I kind of think we're around the same age, right?
I'm turning 36 very soon.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm a little bit older than you. I'm turning 42 soon.
And you have
So
way better hair than me, so you're
well,
killing it.
please, comparison robs people of joy. I say it to a lot of people. Don't compare yourself to my hair. It's better than everybody's.
Yeah, that's funny.
but but the so what I'm saying in that area, I remember like kind of like understanding how to be accepting of people, and I think that it like I guess maybe if I were to go, oh, what's your damage? I would say that it might come from like coming from immigrant parents and living in like in this suburban area, and maybe some people being ignorant to different cultures.
Uh, I don't know. Like, so I don't like the word damage because I mean, it's just life
Oh, I
experience.
mean, I don't take it as like, oh,
Yeah,
you're carrying it.
I
I
know
don't
what
take
you're
it like as it's a weight that you're carrying along with you, because like for sure, like I watched this video today, and it was like the teacher like poured water into a cup, and he was holding it up, and he's like, how heavy do you think this is? And somebody was like, 8 ounces, 12 ounces, and they're like, yeah, but I'm not talking about how much it weighs, but how long I'm carrying it. It gets heavier and it gets heavier. It
Mhm.
gets heavier. If I don't eventually put this thing down, my arm's going to be numb.
Yeah.
So it's like not sure you can put damage down, but like initially,
No, I know that. I know that. Yeah, I've done more than enough self help work and that kind of stuff. So, I think it's tied to what a lot of people have when they're growing up with immigrant parents. Immigrant parents, most of the time, it's like you need to achieve at a certain level, and
mhm.
so you might have 7 A's, but why do you have a B? So the focus is always on perfection. So for me, it's always like if I'm not 100%, then I didn't do good enough. Whereas I might be in the top like 3 out of 30, it's still, if you're not number one, you're not good enough. And I think that's kind of like the underlying belief is that I'm not good enough. I have to keep achieving. I have to keep doing stuff. So part of that is unraveling that aspect of it. And then there's obviously when you're coming from like an immigrant family or like you might not have as much money as the people around you. There's a whole scarcity mindset around money, in that there isn't enough of it, and so you have to shift out of that into more of an abundant mindset. So you might grow up. I mean, thankfully for that, I became very good at saving and putting money away and investing and all that different kind of stuff. So it puts me in a very good position. But there's also that habit that a lot of people might get into with that, but they never get out of it, and so they end up saving so much money that they end up having millions of dollars in their bank accounts and dying and not enjoying a life that's fully lived. So lots of things. Those are just like two of them. Yeah.
So when you ask me about my goals,
Hmm.
you ask me about my goals, and I'm giving you that answer. I want to flip that sort of around and ask you, are you living your goals? Is like what you set out to achieve exactly what you're achieving?
Yeah. Um, Reflecting back on my life, pretty much most things that I've wanted to do, and obviously I've had some failures too. Like there's stuff that you want to do and you end up failing on. But growing up, going through university, I was like, I was going to be an engineer. I'm going to make 60 grand a year first off, and completed that. And then as I went through, I was like, I want to be a senior sales engineer, and I want to make 140 grand a year. Achieved that, and then I was like, well, I want to start a business that makes 10 to 15 grand a month. Worked at that for 3 or 4 years, the consistency piece, keep iterating, just the way my engineering brain works. Achieved that, and then achieved multiple times that amount. And so, yeah, I think even though I've always had like uncertainty and fear and all that different kind of stuff, I usually know what I want. And if I know what I want, going towards it regardless of the fear or the uncertainty. Right now, I'm going through another pivot. So my business is my business, and it's running the way it runs, and so I'm constantly making it more efficient. My next focus is to be known on my personal branding side around something I call amplified relationships, which is like how humans to humans can connect with one another deeply, very quickly. And so that's kind of like the next piece. And then I'm also aiming that in the next 4 or 5 years, my wife and I will have a place in Europe. Like we lived in Europe for a while, but we want to have a place in Europe that we can go back 3, 4 months out of the year. And so that's kind of on the next roadmap as well. But if my ultimate goal, if you're asking like, hey, B, what do you do? What you do? My whole thing is like when I'm 80 and I'm looking back and I look at all the different moments in time where I could have chosen one thing over another, that I don't regret the choice that I made. And so I always won't take the easy choice. I'll take the choice that feels the most correct to me.
Mm-hmm. Complete shift. Complete shift. That I'm going to ask you a weird thing now.
Go for it.
What is the conspiracy theory? What is the rabbit hole that you find yourself falling deepest into that you might be closest to an expert on from the amount of research that you've done on it?
It's around just like our food system and the gut health and all that different kind of stuff. So, I mean, there's people that are much, much more experts than me, but I had Crohn's growing up. And so I had to learn about the food system. I no longer have Crohn's. But I went through a lot of learning to understand how the food system works, how my body works, what I need to give it to basically be able to heal. And so that's kind of like the conspiracy theory there is like the food that we have, unless you're aware of it, is not good for you. Even the stuff that you think is healthy is actually not. And so you have to be very, very careful knowing what you're eating and what you're putting into your body because it has effects down the road.
So, out of all the podcasts that you've been on, if you've even been on any, I'm not sure. I know maybe one or two I've found searching. What is the thing that no one's ever asked you that maybe that you would have liked to be asked?
I've been on so many different podcasts that I feel like a lot of the questions have been asked. I've been asked stuff about my trauma, my childhood growing up. I've been asked about all my marketing stuff. I've been asked about connections. I've been asked about like a whole bunch of different things. Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe one thing that I've never been asked is when I was younger, around like 15 or 16, a friend of mine, his dad ran a pretty good soccer school, and he used to play pro soccer in Europe. And I had a chance for my dad to send me over to Europe to play and do that kind of like tryout. Luckily, I did it. My dad was kind of smart. He's like, "Hey, you should focus on your studies. Soccer comes and goes, and etc." He was very smart because in my 20s, I got injured insane amount of times playing soccer. I still play, but I've had an insane amount of injuries. So that probably never would have happened. So that was kind of like one of those things where it's like, wonder what it would have been like to have to go and play. I probably wasn't good enough. I definitely probably wasn't good enough to play in Europe compared to some of those guys. But it would have been a cool experience to have growing up as a child to do that.
Was that ever a thing that you thought like you felt any kind of regret about?
I mean, it's nothing I could really regret about it because it's my parents had to have the money to do it. Like I didn't really have a choice. It wasn't like, hey, do you want to go or not? And I said no, right? Like, it's not one of those scenarios. It was just like, oh, it's just a cool thing to think about. But ultimately, I know internally, I'm like, I'm good at playing soccer in North America, but and there's so many players that are way better than me. So
yeah, it's like playing on a high school team versus playing in the NFL.
Yeah, very different.
What do you have you had concussions before? Do you know?
No, I've never had a legit concussion. There was a time where I had when I went up for a header and it just hit me in the wrong place. And I remember just being dizzy and then realizing after the fact, I was like, oh, this might have been like a very mild concussion symptom. But then over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks, it cleaned up. But now I'm more aware of that. But yeah, I've been very, knock on wood, luckily not to have any concussions and stuff. I haven't, once again, knock on wood, broken any bones or stuff, but I've done my hamstrings probably 30 to 40 times in the past, but I've strengthened them. I've done groin injuries, like ankle, like you name it, there's probably over 100 injuries. I've dislocated shoulders. I've torn both hamstrings at the same time once. So a lot of rehab. And so back to your question of like, not even conspiracy, but things that you go down a deep hole on. It's like I basically paid for like a kinesiology and a psychology, physiotherapy degree with the number of injuries I've had and how many times I've had to heal from them.
You gotta do the research as your like legs up in a up in a stirrup and you're like doing the research
Oh
on
man,
it.
I spent tens of thousands of dollars. Like I'm talking like probably 40 to 60,000 just in physio and strength and conditioning and training. And like I just hire experts. Like I don't have the time. Like in the past, in your 20s you have time. But I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'd rather find the right people that know what they're doing and kind of build a team around me so that whenever I have an injury, I know the physio I'm going to. Whenever I need to do my strength and conditioning stuff, I got a guy to go to. So um, I just try to find the experts and then just pay them for their time.
So I know we kind of talked about self-help stuff and we talked about the Tony Robbins stuff. When you look at people who inspire you the most, who do you see doing something where you're like, I could be that, I could do that?
Mm.
Can
Um,
you name somebody, or like maybe even it doesn't even have to be somebody that I might know who they are. It just could be making me discover somebody.
yeah. So do you know a guy named Clarence Avant? You heard of him? Um, so if you go on Netflix and you look for the show The Black Godfather, Clarence Avant is the guy that I do look up to. Not look up to, but it was just like when I saw him and what he was doing, I was like, oh, that's the level that I want to get to. And so he's basically the guy. Like he had Obama on his documentary, he had Bill Clinton on a documentary, he had a bunch of like musics and producers in the Black community on his documentary. And he's just like this hidden guy that just helped people get connected to who they needed to get connected to. And he'd make walls move for people based on if he liked what you're doing and where you were headed. So he was just he was just a super connector, or the godfather of super connecting, that no one really knew. And no one knew how he made money. But they knew that anytime that Clarence was in trouble, he's like, I don't got money, but I got friends. And that's like how he would get through some like hard times. But no one knew how he made money. No one knew how things were happening, but he just lived a life and just like, if he believed in someone, he would bring in his network and his abilities to help them move forward. And so, yeah, I don't have very many people that I look up to, because like the normal like CEOs that are running $1 billion companies, I have no interest. I don't care. I don't care to the type of human you have to become to be able to do that. Like that work just engulfs you at that point. For me, it's always been like about the balance and how to connect with humans, which I love. It's just something I like doing, and I think it's tied to the damage or whatever of just like not wanting to be alone. But at the same time, I realized also through Tony Robbins and stuff, I'm like, I'm not alone. I like deeply loved and connected with so many people around me. So I never really looked up to those types of people. But with Clarence, when I saw him, I was like, this is cool. Like this guy's well connected. He helps people with what they believe in, when he believes in something, and that's the kind of human I want to be. Is like, because I built a pretty crazy network of people that I know, and as I see people where I'm like, you're doing something super cool, like I would love to just be able, like, here's the people you need to talk to and move walls for them moving forward. So that's kind of like who I look up to.
You just got goals to connect dots, man. Connect the dots. It's just make make resources become important for other people who don't know that those resources are there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's both in human capital and like connecting people together, but also in just thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
As you probably can tell a little bit, my brain works like an engineer. It works very logically and sequentially. And so whenever I have something that's complicated, I'm like, how do I simplify this to a way that I can fully understand it? And then I can help others along the way.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is maybe another very weird thing to ask, but what do you think happens to you when you die?
That's a good question. The spirituality side of things, I'm still trying to understand. Like it's a world that I don't fully get. Part of me, I don't know, part of me believes that there might be a soul, but there's no way of proving it, and there's only one way to figure it out. But I remember being at a business event, and I met someone that actually died, who came back, and I asked him about his experience, and he's like, "Yeah, I literally died in the arms of my wife, and I remember being outside of my body, watching my wife hold me, and then there was this like weird energy pulling me away, and he's like, I'm not ready to leave yet." And so when I hear stuff like that, I go, there's probably some form of soul or something going on there.
Yeah.
Or the brain does some crazy things when it's low on oxygen and it's about to go. So Yeah, man, I'm in the middle. I have no idea. I'm an engineer, so part of me goes the logic piece, but then I also know that on the other side that there's so many things that we can't explain or understand or grasp around, and things that we don't see or hear because we just have a certain range. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm open to a lot of the things, and I'm not really set on one thing. So I don't know. No one knows.
I had a I'm I think 14 years removed from having major brain surgery. Uh, so when you talk about how great my hair is, they helped me out with that. like,
You
like
went through brain surgery, you're saying?
yeah. So
Oh,
like I got big scars under all this hair, but when I was going in for like I was like, all right, so you're telling me I can't train, I can't wrestle, you're gonna cut my hair? Forget it, don't do it. And they were like, yeah, if we don't do it, you're dead. And I was like, all right, fine, do it. And they just cut it. They just
shit.
cut like a little slit right here, and it grew right back. Either way, in the scans, in the brain scans that they were doing, and they showed me like real time sort of footage of it, and they were showing me all this electricity going on in my head,
Mm.
and like there was all this motion and electricity, and I was like, I remember thinking and feeling in that moment, like that's God, like that's like the unspoken force that like blows the wind through the trees. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's in me. That's the part of me, and I don't know how I can separate that from like going like over, game over. It's unplugged and game's over, and that's it. Like I get like the being kind of because I'm super agnostic sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it could be nothing. Who knows? And sometimes I'm like, oh Jesus, oh like it's like so I'm so back and forth. I'm so it's not that like I waver. It's just that like when a bunch of evidence is put in front of you and you're like, oh, all right, like, and then a different set of evidence is put in front of you and you're like, oh, all right. I don't think everything has to be either one way or the other. It can all be very flow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we don't know, man. It's just being open, seeing kind of what comes, and then going based off that. And sometimes you just don't need to know everything. So that's the other thing, like having the wonder is
Not
important.
it's not for you to
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
It's not
exactly.
for you to know. It's for you to find out. Just like everybody else. Nobody knows and everybody finds out.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Some things are just experiences, man. Yeah, like I had people ask me, "Hey, how's the Tony Robbins events? What did you learn? What's your top three takeaways?" And I go, "I can give you my top three takeaways, but that's just going to help you intellectually. But you're going to have to experience the event. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to really understand. Like, there's no way to understand unless you experience. And it's the same thing for everything in life. Um, you got to run a business to understand. You got to run a podcast to understand. You got to
Yep.
do things to then understand. You can't just read about it and go, "Oh, I get it." No, you don't. You have to experience it.
Well, like sometimes someone's like, "Oh, I'm going to describe to you my favorite parts of this movie and the parts of this movie that made me feel all these things." And it's like you're not going to know unless you watch that movie and you feel those things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you might have
That's
totally different feelings, right?
that's why I don't trust reviews, man. I don't trust critics when they say a movie's bad or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to make my own decision on this whole thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to go about it.
What are your palate cleansers when you're like when life or the world is getting too heavy for you and you're like, all right, I just got to like turn my brain off and consume this content. What is the stuff that like is your go-tos?
I mean, everyone's going to say the gym or some sort of physical activity. So I go gym, soccer, that kind of stuff refreshes. Journaling is another huge one for me. Playing video games is another one. Like, not a lot, but like I like to play single play games where I'm just like in my own world doing my own thing. Yin yoga, which is it's like something to just like chill, bring me down. Um, I used to like cooking a lot of food, but I just don't have time to do it. So now I have someone doing that for me. But like food was another thing. Just like getting to cook, getting in the
Are
moment.
there like YouTube channels that you go to? Is there
No,
like a TV show that you watch or movies that you put on or like cartoons or anything
No,
like
that's
that?
more my wife. That's more my wife. She loves just finding things that like good stories that she's listened to. She'll watch the same show like multiple times. She's like, I just love the story. I just want comfort in it. For me, that's never been the way. Like I'm like more physical. Like I need to move my body. I need to do something. Sitting and just like watching TV just doesn't do it for me. Um, so yeah,
Were you ever a pro wrestling fan in your life? You ever watched the
when I was young,
WWE?
yeah. There
Yeah.
was like Triple H. There was the Undertaker. Like back old school. Like that was the stuff that I
Mhm.
watched back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was this escape for me when I was a kid. For like when bro, like poor white trash. You know what I mean? Poor white trash living in the suburbs, being the brokest family in the suburbs of a single mom. Just like whatever. I'm just gonna watch some pro wrestling and escape from the fact that everyone else is this.
Yeah.
Like, and I think eventually I got to learning like stop comparing yourself to other people. But I hadn't learned that yet, and watch these pro wrestlers do stuff, and then eventually come to compare myself to them, which
Yeah. Yeah. I think
welcome to the wrestling business.
exactly. Welcome to the wrestling business. I think as I'm like reflecting on kind of what you said is like now I don't, because I've spent so much time like internally diving in and understanding who I am, my emotions, like what's going on. Like I actually face those things like quite head on when I'm like something feels uncomfortable. Let's go at it. Versus like distract, because I found distraction just makes it worse because like you'll go drink or smoke or watch TV or what, it doesn't actually solve the
It
problem. It
prolongs
amplifies.
facing it.
Yeah. And so for me, man, I've been seeing a counselor for over 12 years and I see him once a month, regardless of if times are good or times are bad. It's just a time for me to reflect. I've done
Mm.
tons of emotional intelligence courses and training and conflict resolution, like just a lot of work and a lot of books. Um, so I like to face those things head on. So that's why you'll see less of the distraction stuff.
Mhm.
Now I'm reflecting as you're like done. I'm like, oh, that's probably why I don't do those things. It's because I'm like, I'm gonna face this thing head on so that I can feel. I like feeling good. I like feeling at full capacity. I like feeling like, cool. I'm fearful right now and I'm anxious, but I'm still gonna move forward. And just like dancing with that stuff, then trying to resist it and push it away.
Okay. All right. Are you currently working on any projects or programs or with any partners that you see going somewhere big or like doing anything big or that like maybe do you like do you discriminate on like, oh, I'm not gonna take this one, or like I'm not gonna even push my wasting of my time on this project? How would you use that discernment? How would you decide?
Yeah, so there's two questions there. The first question sounds like, hey, what are you working on next that you're excited about and might go somewhere? And then the second one is like, how do you decide between doing a project and not doing a project? Or is that
If you want to translate it that way, you go ahead.
okay? Tell me if it's different. But project that I'm working on right now is like the amplified relationship stuff, where it's
Oh
about
yeah.
like self to self connection. That's the thing that I'm focusing on right now. And so I'm building out a whole way to actually be able to add numbers to a relationship and figuring out like how efficient a relationship is, like in terms of like how deep you've gone in this relationship and what areas can be dived into further. So I've been building that whole model out, and I'm actually doing a talk on it November 6th. So I'm like very much in the ideation creation of that, which is really really fun. And I know by the time I do it on November 6th, it's not going to be fully complete. Like it's something that I'm doing, and I'm going to take information. People are going to ask questions. I'm going to constantly iterate on it until I like get a set goal. And then once I have it where I'm like, oh, this is good, like I have all the pieces, I have all that stuff, I'll probably end up writing a book or doing something along those lines if I really want to do that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be speaking on more stages for it. So that's like the project that I'm putting a lot of like time and effort and energy to, because I just love the human connection stuff, that piece. In terms of like projects and figuring out if I want to do something or not, I like once again, it's a lot of self reflection work of, hey, what do I want to do? What kind of life do I want to live? And will the things that are coming to me help that? So, like, let's say on my CJAM marketing front, where I connect the businesses and marketing agencies together, I have to be very careful of one, the types of partners that I bring into my network. They have to be at a certain level and be good. So I have to say no to a lot of people. But at the same time, I have a lot of people that want access to my marketing agency network. And so they want to sell software, they want to do whatever it is. And so like those types of projects, yeah, I can make money doing that, like making those connections. But at the same time, it takes a lot of my time and energy, and it's not something I really want to focus on because I'm like, that's not where I want to do the connecting. So it just doesn't feel in alignment. So I just say no, or I like push it out and I say, this is something I'll take care of later if it makes sense.
Sometimes I feel like, and this is a weird thing. Like, do you remember like Suey, where like there's a game in elementary school where you like throw the ball up against it's like a tennis ball and you throw it up against the wall and it comes back and you have to like
Oh,
run
okay.
to
Yeah,
grab it
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. I don't
We
remember
call
the
that game
exact.
different. We call that something totally different. It's not, yeah.
It was called Suey for some reason in my gym or in my recess. It was
Yeah.
called Suey. It's maybe called handball or something.
And then if someone like missed, you'd have to throw the ball at them. Like,
Right, you have to
yeah.
peg them.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it was like, and then every once in a while the ball would get roofed, and then the game would just end.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone would roof the ball, and the game itself would just end.
Yeah.
And I took that in my head. Please, if I say anything that you can apply to your life or can be a positive, good resource to you, please use it. But I would say there was a Mitch Hedberg. I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan. Mitch Hedberg, my all-time favorite stand-up comedian. He did a bit where he would talk about the great thing about tennis is no matter how good you get at tennis, you'll never be as good as the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I started thinking about like when you're having a conversation with somebody and it gets like you're not getting anywhere with it. It's like you're playing tennis against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's like might as well just take your tennis ball and roof it, like, and have the game just end. Or you get three cans in that. You get three balls in that can. Just stuff them back in the can and go play somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, okay. So what I'm grasping from that is you're talking to someone and it feels like you're talking to a wall. Just
Right.
give it, just walk away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So I say, how do you make like, especially because a lot of this type of work is virtual. So like you can't get like you can't get a full grasp on who this person is or what they're like or their habits or their like red flags really from these like really limited interactions.
Hmm.
But
I would
is it
disagree. I would be
you
I'd be
pick
the
up on
devil's
more?
advocate of that. I think you can figure out a lot from people from just talking to them because people leave a lot of clues, right? In like certain things that they say and the way they say it and the things that they find important. Because then you can find like you're not gonna know the core essence of someone, but you're gonna have a pretty good idea of like, oh, this person's this focused or like they're going down this route. Or someone will say something, you're like, they've thought this to a certain level of depth. And so now I know I can go that deep with them pretty quickly. So people leave a lot of clues in what they're talking about and the way that they hold themselves and the way that they bring things across. So I think you can learn a lot about people just in very like I can build deep connections within 10 minutes a lot of the times. You just have to find the right people.
All right. I mean, I'm very, very, very happy to be proved wrong on a lot of things. Like, I'm cool, not just being proved wrong, but saying something and then somebody being like, yeah, I don't agree with that. And then showing me evidence and me being like, yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah,
I'm
it's the joy of
okay
life.
with that. I'm
The joy of life.
fully good.
Yeah, me too. Like I'll say something sometimes. My friend will be like, you know what? What about this? I'm like, that's a good point. So I got to iterate and move. It's just having a growth mindset, and like it's my belief now. But if you give me something that's different, I will shift it for sure.
Look, I'll go back to like middle school and be like, when someone be like, yeah, did you see that? Did you see that new movie that just came out? And be like, yeah, and be excited to talk about it like it was something you liked. And then they'd be like, it sucked. And you're like, yeah, it really sucked. You're like flimsy on your own opinion on something.
But yeah, I guess that's part of being a teenager. You're just like,
Yeah,
I
I
just
was
want
a
to fit
little
in,
bit
right?
of that.
Yeah,
I was a little bit of that
yeah,
for a while.
yeah. That makes sense at that part of his life for sure.
So in your abilities that you've picked up in being able to learn stuff from people, is there anything that stands out me on me, like something that you're like picked up the most from having this conversation with me?
I think essentially, like, you just want to be really authentic, and just do things that you love doing, and you like to just see kind of where conversations go, not just be like everyone else. And so you're just basically using this as a platform of like figuring out who am I and who do I like being, where do I get the most energy from. That's kind of the sense that I got from you as just listening to you.
All right. Well, I guess I don't hate that. I'm I like see one more time talking about the on the record aspect of things, like as far as like this being a time capsule in who I am in this moment and what life is like here for me. Like, let's say I was 33 when I started the podcast in 2017, and I'm about to be 42 now. So I could go back and listen to any episode and be like, oh, okay, that clocks. That's where I was. That was what my relationships were like in the world, and that's what my aspect was. Originally, I wanted to write a book, just like you said. You want to write a book. I wanted to write like an autobiography, but I'm like, who am I to anybody that they would want to pick it up and read it? And I was like, and then on top of that, if somebody were to read it and they read something that I wrote 10 years ago and don't agree with it, and they go, hey, you wrote this in your book and I don't agree with that. Um, yeah, that was me 10 years ago. I don't agree with that yet anymore either. And then I was like, well, I could just have an ever evolving sort of audio or video at this point. At first it was audio only, but I can have this ever evolving audio, almost like in Wayne's World, which I don't know if you ever watched Wayne's World.
I didn't.
It's like if you had a weekly spot on the show where you could update the people on what's going on. That's kind of how I feel about the show. It's like I could have this spot to kind of like update myself, or I could update whoever. Like I do this thing on the podcast, and I'll do it with you in just a sec, where I say this is like an audio time travel, right? So this is a timestamp for right here and right now. Someone comes across this piece of content that we're making right now in 20 years. They're coming across this, and they want like a timestamp on what today is like for you and what messages that have the most powerful like inspiration for who you are now versus who you're going to be in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying to them?
What do I say to them now?
Well, they're going to hear this here. This right now is our right now, but the right now to them is 20 years into the future. So they're hearing it in 20 years from now from you right now.
I mean, the biggest thing I would say is no matter where you are in life and how old you are, like figure out what you want to do in life and always keep asking that question, so that you end up living a life you don't regret and just building things reactively. Just be way more proactive about it. And so anyone that's looking for that's timeless advice because you want to live a life that's full and true to yourself.
Nice. All right, I just have a couple more things, and then I'll send you off into the sunset with a hot dog and a handshake.
Sounds good.
So then talking about the on the record thing, there's been lots of people who've been on the show, lots of friends, and a lot of people who like became my friends through this and have become important to me through doing this. I want to on the record say I'm glad this is the beginning of our friendship, and I'm happy to be a resource to you in any way if I can be it. If you just need a friend, you just need to talk to somebody, feel free to call me. You have my number.
Very cool.
And with that being said, I flip it around at this point and I say, now's your chance to say to me on the record anything you'd like to say, or ask me anything on the record that you'd like to ask me.
No, man, I just think what you're doing is cool. I'm inspired by how long you've been running this podcast and the way that you do it and the mentality that you have around it. I appreciate it. I think the biggest thing I take away from like what you're doing is that you're just doing something you love doing and keeping the time capsule of it, which is awesome. And so good on you for staying true to yourself, man.
Thank you. Any questions you have for me?
What would the end run look like if this podcast got to where you wanted it to be? Like, say you did get the following, you did that stuff. Like, what would you want it to do? What kind of impact would you want it to have?
So everything I do serves every other thing I do. So like I'm this independent wrestler, right? So I want anybody who would go like listen to this, then go, oh, that guy's also a pro wrestler. Oh, that guy also does stand up comedy, and then they discover my stand up comedy. Oh, that stand up comedian is also a podcaster. Then they follow the podcast. That guy's also an actor. He's in a bunch of movies. Oh, let's check this, and then everything else serves every other thing that I do. So like as far as like motivation, I'd like to be on bigger stages, and I'd like to have bigger chances to be able to like impact not just those things, but I'd like to bring those things up. Like I go like I spent 25 years in independent pro wrestling. I'd like to make some impact. I'd like to do some stuff that matters. Like and it's not coming through my merit. It's not at this point. Like if it's coming through me doing this and building a following this way, and then I'm unignorable, then neat. You know what I mean? Then that's cool. I I I want to like I foresee the growth of the podcast, kind of like Rogan. You know what I mean? Not. I mean, comparing yourself to anybody's hard to do. That's not really what I want to do. But I'm saying the growth aspect of it. Like, but for sure, he's this comedian, UFC commentator guy, and I'm a comedian, pro wrestler guy who is not faking anything. And I think that's something with him too. It's like you can tell, you can kind of smell that stuff out on if somebody's kind of being phony or just being authentic. And I once had episode 58 of the podcast. So now I'm at 366 at this point. But episode 58 of the podcast, I had a guest on named Mark Norman. He's a comedian. And right after we were done recording the podcast, he was asking me a bunch of questions, and I started answering those questions. And he was like, who else have you had on the podcast that I would know? And I started naming a couple people, and he knew who they were. And I was like, not just people that you'll know. I'll interview people. It's not really an interview. I'll have conversations with people because I know everyone's got something that I can grow from, something that I can learn from. Like I had an interview with my next door neighbor, who was this lady who was like in her 80s, and she had gastric bypass surgery before it was a big thing. So she used to be a real heavy woman, and then she lost all this weight, and she had all these really interesting stories that she would tell me in the neighborhood. And I was like, this lady's old, and like she doesn't have anything else to have it like on the record. When she goes, these stories are just gonna go away. I'd like to have these moments with these people that kind of preserve this like this legacy up for moments at a time. If there's just one thing I can learn from it. And as I was telling him that, he said, "You're the next Joe Rogan." And now that guy, Mark Norman, is on Joe Rogan all the time. He's like he's in what they call the Rogan sphere. He's like in that community.
Cool.
So it's like, it's interesting that guy said that to me, and he pulled that thing, and that guy's now part of that circle.
Crazy the way the world works. That's cool, man.
So I think I just want to make some impacts on some people who need that impact, or people who really I can bring some value to them, and they can then speak up with with their support of me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I like it.
And I say on here too, man. Like my DMs are wide open. If anyone's ever watching or listening to anything I'm talking about, and they feel like they don't have a friend or they don't have a resource, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. If you have questions that you think I'd be an expert at and could help you with that, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I'm all the way accessible.
Good. That's good.
Just keep keep pictures of your privates. I don't need them. I don't need them. Other people want them. I don't.
Right.
So let's say, hypothetically, I've gifted you this podcast. This is your new podcast now. This is the pilot episode of your new podcast, Evolving with Behdad Jamshidi, right?
Yep.
In the first episode of your podcast, when you wrapping it up in like a very Jerry Springer's final thought type way, the most valuable takeaways, the most valuable lessons that could teach people to evolve, to be a better version of themselves, or at least to just inspire them. What are the things that you're telling these people?
I mean, the best learning works through action, whether it's small or big, it doesn't matter. Just continue to find what you want to do and then just make small actions towards it. You don't need to jump your full-time gig to do it either. But you can definitely just move forward by just making small actions every day towards something that you believe you want. And that's what you're going to kind of learn.
Do you do any impressions at all?
Zero
Impressions. Normally I'll usually close out the show by having the guest do whatever their best impression is, saying the closing line, which is be fun, have safe, keep evolving. But if you don't have any impressions at all, just pretend that you're doing an impression of yourself. If you're somebody else who's not you, doing an impression of you saying the tagline, be fun, have safe.
Be fun, have safe, and what was the last one?
Keep evolving.
And keep evolving. Be fun, be fun, be safe, and keep evolving.
Be fun, have safe.
Be fun, have safe, keep evolving.
You see, I switched it around. This is the thing I used to say to my brother as he was walking out the door to go drive Uber. He was Ubering people around, and I would say, "Be fun, have safe," because it's like have fun, be safe. But I'm switching it because I don't want to be cliche.
I like it. Always changing it up, man. Being unique. That's good.
Always, yeah. Anybody, if this is your first time checking out the podcast, if this is the first time checking out Evolving, this is the first time checking out the channel, hit subscribe, follow, like, comment, interact in some way. Prove to me that you really exist. I'm a real person who really exists, and I will appreciate it very, very much. Be kind to yourself above anything else you could take away from any conversations I have with you. Give yourself some grace. You're trying. You're evolving. Be kind to others. Be fun. Have safe. Keep evolving. Bye.